Welcome to DeFi by Design, where we talk all things blockchain and cryptocurrency while striving to educate, empower, and enrich.
Andy is a crypto investor and believer since early 2017, after he discovered Bitcoin through the University of Florida's Blockchain Club. Since his time at UF, he's founded a few successful internet businesses and went full-time into entrepreneurship in 2019. A strong believer in decentralization and fair opportunity, Andy is aiming to educate, empower, and enrich as many people as possible through the permissionless system we know as DeFi. Rob started playing poker with Bitcoin in 2015 and hasn't looked back. Since discovering Bitcoin, he dove headfirst into the world of crypto, first by trading, then immersing himself in blockchain application, decentralization, and financial game theory. While pursuing a math and philosophy dual major at university, he launched a successful algo trading fund and helped push the University Blockchain Club to new levels. Our vision is to onboard billions into DeFi and totally disrupt the corrupted system of central banks and power as we know it. With education, we will close the information gap and bring DeFi to the masses.
What's going on, guys? Real quick break for the DeFi by Design podcast sponsors and the DeFi Slate sponsors who make this all possible. First, we have 𝗷𝗍, a money market protocol that allows you to borrow and lend and leverage your assets to earn interest, right? So if you want to deposit some stable coins in there, currently you can get 3, 4, 5, 6, 8% APYs on stable coins, which oust any bank in the world. As far as we're concerned, you can deposit any Ethereum-based asset that is listed there, borrow against it. You can borrow stablecoins. You can borrow other assets like ETH or 𝗹𝗏, Link, even the 𝗷𝗍 token itself. 𝗷𝗍 is the go-to protocol for any sort of borrowing and lending. Check it out at app.𝗷𝗍.com. The next one we have is Oxys. Oxys is a new crypto wallet, oxys.com. You can store all of your crypto there. They have quite a few options. They're integrating new DEX features soon and allow you to have a non-custodial way to store your crypto safely off of centralized exchanges and also just not in a MetaMask or in your own ledger. A bit of extra security there. Next, we have 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 is a decentralized perpetual swap protocol, basically allowing you to trade on leverage on the Ethereum chain, right? They're coming out with V3 very soon. By the time you're listening to this, it might already be out. They are a super solid team, and they're pumping updates and allowing you to trade decentralized perpetual swaps on ETH, Link, and a few others, all on Ethereum, all decentralized. So that is 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. Next, we have 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗵. 𝗵𝗶𝗶 is a decentralized stablecoin. It's an algorithmic stablecoin that is pegged to the purchasing power of commodities. And then basically, it measures what value $1 buys in terms of a commodity index each week. And then it provides you with essentially a store of value that allows you to continuously evade inflation while maintaining, a stable aspect as if it was $1. And that is the 𝗵𝗶𝗶 protocol. Check them out on Twitter. Finally, we have DeFi. It is an L2 decentralized exchange. They allow you to basically trade in a gasless and feeless manner, big volumes, whatever quantities you need. It's almost like a centralized exchange on Ethereum, but you are the custodian. They do not hold your coins as a centralized exchange would. You have full control, full power. So really, it's almost like a centralized exchange capabilities on a decentralized exchange, and that is DeFi. All those sponsors make this possible. I know it's a lot to take in, but thank you very much for listening, and let's get back to it. Welcome to the DeFi by Design podcast. It is a day to talk about DeFi every day, and here we are again talking about DeFi. Welcome to episode 32. Our special guest today is Red from Harvest Finance. His name is Red, like the color red, so do not call him anything else because his name is Red. And so we're excited to sit down here for a bit and chat DeFi, what's going on Binance Smart Chain, kind of how to capitalize on that, and how to make sure that you don't get wrecked on that, and then other things that we're seeing as yield opportunities and things to go over with Harvest Finance, which we think could help you guys basically find a place to use and utilize your capital into productive capital. So we're going to go over all of those things today. Looking forward to it. I'm going to pass it over to my boy Robbie. We're actually stationed together today. The location is not to be talked about because of OPSEC. Just kidding, we're in Gainesville, bro. We're absolutely vibing. And yeah, Robbie.
So it's not often that Andy and I link up on the same side of town, but it's one of those rare days. So super stoked to be here. It's another beautiful day in Florida. We're kicking it, just having a good time, and going to be talking to Red from Harvest. Like Andy said, just going over all things DeFi, what Harvest does and how they contribute to the ecosystem. And yeah, let's pass it over to Red. How you doing today, man?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Cool. So yeah, maybe we can start with just kind of a light intro, how you got involved in crypto, kind of what you saw as like some, telltale signs that this is an innovation. This was something that you wanted to contribute to. And then kind of what your role is at Harvest, and how you make your bread here in crypto.
Sure. So basically I started around like 2017 in crypto. Heard about Bitcoin years before that, but it was kind of like magic internet money. I thought it kind of ridiculous. But then my brother-in-law started talking about Ethereum and smart contracts. And that got me really interested, just seeing like, oh, you can build like applications that live on the internet with like no owner, right? And so that's kind of what decentralization kind of really clicked for me. And I'm like a degenerate gambler at heart. I love betting on the NFL. Go Vikings. I don't know if you guys can see that. The idea,
Bucks, baby.
Yeah, terrible. Get out of here. So the idea that you could build like a casino, a global casino online, using like a single currency, a global currency like Ethereum or even Bitcoin. And like no government could stop it because, again, it's decentralized. So, billions made in Vegas. I mean, you could talk about trillions if you could do this globally, right? So that really kind of sparked my my interest in cryptocurrency. And then when I kind of stumbled into it, like ICOs were really like starting to take fire. And I came across a project called Token Card, which is now Monolith. It's like a Visa card where you could spend your crypto. And so to me, that was like another like aha moment, like, oh, okay, well, it was magic internet money, but if I could swipe a Visa debit card really easily and spend it, then it's actual money, right? So I was like, this product's going to be huge. I really want to follow this. So I love chatting crypto. That's why I'm kind of chatting here with you guys. So, being in their Discord chat channel, just naturally talking to other people about this and kind of hyping it up. They're like, hey, do you want to help moderate? And so like, it was right around the ICO kicking off that I was just help moderating the chat, and I kind of hung around for like 3 or 4 years, just being a volunteer and just learning about crypto and just making a lot of friendships and networking. And then along the way, I've just come across like projects like Harvest Finance. Again, I just kind of walked in the door and saw, hey, this is a product that's needed in the space. DeFi summer, yield farming is a huge innovation, but Harvest is an aggregator of different farms. So instead of you having to jump from farm to farm to farm, Harvest is kind of all in one shop doing it for you. So I was like, hey, this is a project I need to use. I don't want to get rug pulled in some yield farm, so let me use Harvest. And kind of the same thing, I was hanging out in their community, answering questions. Oh, hey, do you want to be a moderator? Sure. So like since like week 2 or 3 of the project, I've been, helping moderate in the project, and then just grown through that. So, now I do podcasts. I try to help kind of like project manage all of the moderators and organize the different work. Because I think what people don't understand about DAOs is there's a lot more than just like casting a vote and hoping some developers like, write some really cool code. There's people that have to do customer service. There's people that have to do podcasts. There's people that have to help run our competitions, help with the Twitter handle. There's just like a million little things that when you actually consider like a small business, all those things actually have to happen within a DAO too. When you're talking, especially with like a Harvest where you have like a $500 million TVL or whatever. So that's like my specific role at Harvest is I do a lot of like some of the just project management organization of all the different mods who are help contributing. So it's not just me, there's like 10 other mods there, all pitching in based on their talents. Like I don't have any developer skills. So there's other devs that may have some developer skills, right? There's other guys that are really good with marketing or artwork, like the artwork come on our front page comes outsourced and other people working on that. So, a collective of us mods that help out this anonymous core developer team that actually does all the programming for Harvest Finance. So just kind of like another unique nuance is you have like these...
Dude, it's like a mafia in real life, as you said, honestly, online global casino, right? That's a very honest way of your entrance. And then you bring together these people that have never met, and you've got an online mafia just trying to play the game. And I mean, it's just like, wow, what is going on here? So I think we should definitely dive into the DAO topic, we're super interested in trying to somehow create a DAO for what we're building with DeFi Slate. And a lot of that is just kind of being lazy and wanting, to have other tasks be done there and just kind of, more run the show, right? But ultimately, when you get this collective, there's this new form of collaboration, as you're explaining, which is just, unparalleled elsewhere. But before we get there, we're going to have to go over some of the dark side of the news. In your explanation of Harvest, you were saying that you could come there and not get rug pulled. I got rug pulled on Harvest Finance. So let's go over that. Like, what was the kind of jump start to Harvest? Kind of, okay, you guys got off the ground, TVL boomed, right? I remember the token launched in like the 2K range, I think, 3K range for a bit, right? Then obviously yield farming, dump, then like go, right? So what happened from there up to the hack? And then I guess, what's been the plan of attack after? How has the story of Harvest changed from how it started to now?
Sure. So, I mean, like I kind of mentioned, like week one, Harvest is a yield farming aggregator, right? And to clarify, a rug pull means kind of like an exit scam. For sure. So Harvest got hacked. You kind of mentioned it later. So you didn't get a rug pulled by Harvest. There was a hack that occurred at Harvest. So, and we can talk about that a little bit. So basically Harvest is a yield farming aggregator. So they have their own code that basically stores all the user funds, right? And then it basically has to then create a strategy to connect to places like Curve or Idle Finance or all these other places where the yield farms are. So not only does your coding, in a sense, have to be perfect, you have to also make sure the coding of the platform that you're connecting to is perfect. So maybe that's a scam, and you want to make sure your entire platform at Harvest doesn't get rug pulled by connecting to a scam, right? So there's all these like little nuances that you have to make sure that just because your platform is good, and even if another platform is good like Curve, what about the interactions between the two, right? Like if your code's not communicating perfectly, you may have like an issue. And that's kind of what happened. Was there was a bad string of code at Harvest that wasn't properly, I think it was called like set virtual price or something like that. Again, I'm not a dev, but basically what happened was it allowed somebody to take what's called a flash loan, which is where you can borrow funds and pay it back all within one transaction. And you can do that within DeFi. So basically they're able to borrow like $50 million, overflow the vaults, tricking the vault's price, and then they were able to do this cycle of withdrawals using a trick price, and then that's kind of how you got hacked. They did a drain, basically tricking the oracles. Again, that was one piece of code that kind of makes things go crazy. And so that's why DeFi in a whole is kind of like Wild West. I think you guys talk about Wild West and your like theme of what you guys do at DeFi Slate, and that's a great analogy for DeFi. There's a lot of opportunity. Gold rush, go stake your claim. I've used this analogy a lot myself, but there's a lot of like dangers and traps. So as like perfect as you can be, you can fall into those pits. The golden goose of the whole DeFi industry, or not industry, but like yield farming, is Wired. And they suffered the same exact hack as Harvest did, right?
Yeah,
so like,
sure.
Again, that's not to make excuses. That's just to say like, as good as you are, like as good as you are, you're on the cutting edge. And it's kind of very hard to know all risk vectors because they're on the cutting edge too. The hackers are just right there behind you looking for you to make any mistake, right? So that's kind of what happened at Harvest.
And better than you probably.
Yeah, exactly.
They are also an online mafia almost
That's the real mafia. We're like the white hat mafia. We're trying to do the good for the people, and there's other people trying to backdoor us. So after that, so what we tried to do was we issued an IOU token in a sense, right? IOU is just kind of like a rough way to say it, but it's called the grain token. It was issued kind of 1-to-1 for every dollar lost, which was about 17% to a given user, right? So I know you got hacked. I think you should have been kind of capped out about 17%.
It was small amount,
while hack sucks, if you think about it, like today, what did the market dump, right? Like 25, 30%, depending on what you're in. So like, yes, it's a hack. Again, no excuses.
We just got scammed.
This is just like...
we just got scammed the last 24 hours.
Oh, man. See, that, but like... So yeah, like a market dump, it was like double, the negative impact that the hack had on Harvest, right? So again, not making an excuse or whatever, just kind of like putting it into the context. And that's kind of, I think, why Harvest rebounded very well. We still have $500 million in a system. We have, pushing towards 100 total strategies now, linking up Binance Smart Chain. I think with over 35 strategies just in Binance Smart Chain. So I think I was touching on it. We issued kind of an IOU token, grain token. There's money allocated to it out of emissions. The community is very much involved in that because we did voting on, hey, how much should we allocate out of the platform? Because one thing is there wasn't $23 million laying around in our ops treasury fund at that point, right? And then all of a sudden we just, wipe out our ops treasury fund, wipe out all profits of the platform, you break the platform, and then nobody really does good out of that, right? So again, engaging with the community, it's kind of like, what's the best balance of making sure people can get reimbursed, between also ensuring the platform itself can live so it can continue to devote profits towards reimbursement, right? So that's kind of what the grain token is, and people can use that even as a speculatory tool today, because I've seen like grain token down at like a penny and it shoot up all the way to 20 cents. So there's even like a trader's market within the grain token itself. So and then just now as today, I kind of touched on it. Harvest is doing business as is. I think that was like 3 or 4 months ago that hack occurred. No real issues. We've now deployed cross-chain farming to Binance Smart Chain, and just really continuing the steps to still be on the cutting edge.
Yeah, and I think that's a great transition to more of the DAO conversation. Kind of determining how some of those decisions are made. Are we going to reimburse the funds that were lost? How you're going to do it? What is that DAO process like? And for, kind of these cutting edge technologies, it's really like how you organize your leadership and your mafia, right? To continue this analogy. So yeah, I guess more of like the DAO conversation. And if you're a moderator, maybe you can speak on like the decision-making process. How was it to set up the DAO? How do you deal with conflict within the DAO when there's not clear a clear hierarchy and everyone's kind of collaborating on making these decisions? How do you guys come to agreement between the entire community when, really there's just a few of you guys being moderators and trying to gather the opinions of everyone in the community?
I mean, it's a great question. There's different ways to do it, so it's very hard to speak universally. Like kind of one of the universal truths is when there's a token that exists for a project, your token is like almost like a 1-to-1 vote, right? So again, that doesn't apply to every project. There's weighted voting systems, but it's almost basically assigned to token ownership. So again, if you hold like the Harvest token farm, and a proposal is made by any community member, it kind of starts out initially in our Discord, and somebody says, hey, here's a proposal. I think Harvest could benefit from this. If that gains traction, we kind of discuss it within the community, and then the core devs at that point may chime in and say, okay, this has kind of reached to the point where, yeah, we think this could be good for the ecosystem. Is this something that the community ultimately wants to vote in as a whole? Because not everybody's necessarily in Discord chat there to talk about things. So that's where it takes to the next level, where you go to like a program like Snapshot, where then you can like formally propose something in written text, and then it's connected to...
All right, I really like the mafia analogy here, and I don't mean to interrupt,
sure.
But like it sounds like the dev programmers are like the family, right? Like they're the Godfather and Michael, and like these are the key decision makers that kind of decide like, all right, this kind of scenario happened maybe away from the rest of the community, and there's a decision that needs to be made. Let's organize a sit down, right? So like the family then has a sit down and the snapshot occurs, and then everyone kind of casts their vote on, all right, so how are we going to deal with this proposal? Are we going to accept it, or are we going to kind of reject it and keep moving on business as usual? So it seems like maybe, like you said, there's a bunch of different ways to do this, and this is how Harvest does it. There's like an inner circle that kind of decides when a proposal is valid enough to even be voted on. And then when that proposal is passed, let's say, it's instantiated by these devs that then turn it into code.
Yeah.
Is this mental model correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't like the negative connotations necessarily with like the mafia, but I mean, it's a semi-good analogy, right? Because there's not like this dark purpose, right? Like ultimately like
Like
anonymity.
in the expansion to be a C. I'm sorry to interrupt as well, but like, is that how the choice was made? Was it like devs go and then, this is a good idea, this is going to help the community, right? So in that positive light, is that kind of how the choice was made?
Yeah, like think of like a farming commune, right? Like everybody's working together, and that's kind of why we use the farming and harvest analogy. Everybody's working together, but like ultimately there's still a guy that owns the farm. There's still going to be kind of like a head figure, right? But if you're truly a commune, if you want to make changes to the farm or somebody wants to propose it, like it ultimately has to like appease the owner of the farm or show that it's going to be something for the common good. And then you talk to everybody about it and say, hey, does everybody agree with this? And so that same principle applies here, right? So like, instead of thinking mafia, I think we're like, again, like a farming commune where everybody's kind of working together to pitch in their skills. As I mentioned, I'm not a dev, I'm a talker. We have dev moderators, we have dev people that help build our dashboards. Again, we have people that are good pitchmen and do the marketing stuff. So again, that's more of a commune of a different collective talents that people are coming together to help support this farming land that the devs have provided, and they're the guys that say, yeah, okay, I'm down to put a barn over there, right? We can't just show up and start building on their property, right? But if we get their approval and they agree with it, cool, right? So I think that's the better analogy than like a whole kind of like mafia thing in a sense.
Yeah. The analogy aside, let's go over the Binance Smart Chain application and expansion in this kind of commune sense, right? So I think when you guys put your heads together as a team and shows that expanding to Binance Smart Chain would be meaningful to the community, what was the process like there, and what's going on over on Binance Smart Chain, yield opportunities for our followers and people who are interested.
Sure. So again, going back to like the commune analogy. There wasn't like a vote to say, should we expand to Binance? Although there was discussion to say, what chains are out there that help support like the idea of yield farming, right? So the devs may not hear of every yield farm that's available out there. So we actually do. We have a strategies channel and partnerships channel where people show up and say, hey, we think you should work with them, or here's a brand new farm, here's the APYs, and then the devs may intake that. So Binance Chain, I don't remember exactly perfectly, but I think it was just like, there's so many farms popping up there, and Binance has so much pull within the crypto community. Let's build there, right? So again, just kind of going back to the commune analogy, hey, we bought some land over there. Do you guys want to start working on it? Sure. And now people are working on like Binance Smart Chain. That's kind of the same idea here, right? Like the devs have bought more farmland, awesome. And now everybody's working there. And so now new strategies are popping up. And again, some of these strategies are very much referred by our community because they say, hey, ellipsis, hey, Space Force token, or whatever it is. These things have crazy APYs. And then we'll go and look at them. And we actually have a guy, Jasper, community guy. He's not a core dev. He helps write the strategies and say, here devs, I've done kind of like the framework stuff. Do you guys want to implement this? And then they may go and further build it out from there, right? So you can see kind of like the organic growth all through this process, right? We rely on community and developers both to make this successful.
So you mentioned some of the APYs and what allows them to be higher or some being lower. Maybe we could dig into that a little bit more. Like, some of these Binance coins that we see on the harvest farms are like in the thousands of % for APY. And we understand, that doesn't last for an entire year, maybe not even, a full month or two. But maybe you could speak on like harvest as an aggregator. What allows some of those APYs to be so high, whereas some of the other ones are much more, moderate in 10 to 20%?
Sure. I mean, a lot of it depends on the platform or the farm itself that you're connecting to. So when it's a brand new project, they may just be issuing so many tokens, it's really artificially inflating their APY, or maybe a market pump is occurring and it's pumping that specific token, so then the APY is going to be higher because the token itself becomes more valuable. Compared to maybe something that's like a little bit like older or more established, like Uniswap, more people also may be farming Uniswap because of its popularity and its name, or 1inch is actually the one that you can farm right now. So the more money that floods into a strategy and the rewards stay static, that means your APY gets lower, right? Because it means it has to pass out the same exact number of rewards to more money that's coming in, right? So that can lower your APY. So there's a bunch of different factors. Binance Smart Chain just has brand new farms and projects popping up all the time. So you see their APY percentages a little bit higher than some of the Ethereum projects.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it comes down to the tokenomics of the platform. Not Harvest's platform, because you guys kind of aggregate the same across all these different protocols, but more so the tokenomics of any new connection that Harvest makes. And like you said, if they're being inflated very high, there's going to be a lot more tokens being pumped into that farm and inflating that APY way up.
Yeah, and I think that's one of our key strengths, not only trying to make it easy for the user, but we push a lot of strategies to kind of try to stay on that cutting edge. I think we have the most strategies. I don't want to be quoted on that, but at like 85 plus.
Like 80 of them, I think, right?
I think I counted 85 at last, or around there. So, I mean, we're getting there, right? So, again, I think that's just really us trying to stay on the cutting edge of what's the best APYs, which farms are safe, and, without trying to just YOLO into stuff, right? Because again, we're dealing with people's money. We've already kind of experienced a hack. We don't want users to go through that. So there's just this balance of degen, but have to make sure that we're careful, right?
Right. And so for the users of Harvest and those that are listening to this podcast, right, interested in actually getting in the action here on Harvest, what does that kind of look like to users, right? So let's walk through the mental model of what using a platform like Harvest actually means in like a financial sense, right? Like yield farming, okay, we understand that is you are participating in the distribution of a protocol's governance token, right? That's effectively what yield farming is. And your opportunity cost is your liquidity, right? So you're depositing your funds into this protocol to earn rewards in the form of the protocol's governance token, and in some cases, the actual underlying asset in which you are depositing as well, right? So let's just go over kind of what is the step-by-step kind of the practical model for like, okay, so you got to go on MetaMask and connect it, but also like kind of like the mental model of like, all right, why am I coming to use Harvest, right? Like what is a user coming to achieve?
So I think today's market's a great example of why like mainstream would want to use Harvest than even just holding like ETH or Bitcoin by itself, right? Because let's say you bought Bitcoin yesterday, and you're like, sweet, I'm a now Bitcoin holder, and then wake up and the market's dumped 30% on you, and you're just like, this is a terrible experience. And this happens like all the time, right? When like FOMO kicks in, then everybody ends up buying the top of the market, and then that's how crypto gets a bad name, because then you have these wild swings, right? So everybody wants a wild swing up. Nobody can ever handle the wild swings downwards, right? So in terms of like mainstream, and we tweeted about this today, was Harvest has 15 different stablecoin strategies between Ethereum and Binance, right? And so a stablecoin is basically like a digital representation of a dollar or a euro. So a dollar is a dollar. You have $1 USDC. You don't have to worry about waking up tomorrow and it being only worth 70 cents because the market dropped 30%, right? That's what happens with Ethereum or Bitcoin. And I think that's what shies away 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 from ever putting her money in cryptocurrency. And that's what everybody's waiting for, the mainstream, right? So if at Harvest, you can bring a digital dollar that isn't subject to market volatility and still make like 20 to 50%, 50 times what a fiat bank is going to give you on your dollar, why wouldn't you use Harvest Finance, right? So that's the key selling point. And then we try to make it very easy. It's pretty much, hey, if you can get a digital dollar off Coinbase, the largest exchange, one of the largest exchanges in the world, or go to Binance and get some USDT or whatever it is, and get that to your MetaMask wallet, you simply go to harvest.finance, find where USDC is on the list, click it, click deposit, and you're pretty much done as long as you have some ETH in your wallet, right? So as long as you kind of have like this basic understanding, hey, I need a little bit ETH for gas, and then I can go to a website. It's that easy, right? And then also working with some other projects like Zapperfy is a great project that we're trying to talk about, where even if you have Ethereum or if you have Link or whatever it is, right? With 85 different strategies, that means you may have 85 different varieties of coins that you may need to deposit it. Again, @𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 doesn't want to have to go out and buy some space coin hybrid BSU token LP, right? But if you're using something like Zapper, and she does have USDC in her wallet, she can still deposit to that strategy because Zapper is going to do all the work behind the scenes for you, right? So that's one of the really important things that we haven't touched on yet is like DAOs or projects like Harvest working with other projects and being collaborative in the space instead of kind of being like, hey, we're just Harvest Finance, we're siloed.
Y'all have made some investments recently, right?
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things. Council 69, basically anybody can come to us, whether it's like...
Was that number a coincidence?
No, not at all.
It's not a mafia, bro.
There's 68 other councils and this one just happened.
Well, I mean, our token supply is also 690,420. So you make out of that as well.
What a coincidence.
One too many LSD tabs back in the day. One too many.
So basically, Council 69 means anybody, whether it's you guys or the developers themselves, saying, hey, look at this awesome project. They're in like their seed round or like pre-sale round or whatever. Harvest will put in, we're generally putting in about $50,000 in each project, a very small amount. But we do it when we recognize it's a project that contributes like to the ecosystem of DeFi itself, right? We're not just doing it to say, oh, 50 grand, we want to turn it into 50 million, right? Like that's not the intention.
Hey, sign us up. We'll take you up on that. We'll give you 5% and call it a day. No, but what are some of the projects that you've recently invested in, like DAOs? Projects in DAOs.
So basically, we've AP Wine Finance. That's like a futures project. So basically, like you have Farm, and Farm has an APY because of the profit share that it gets out of the platform. And let's say it's like 60% a month or whatever, or just say 100% a month as the flat easy rate. You can deposit that at AP Wine and says, okay, lock up your farm for 1 month, and they collect, in a sense, the yield on your behalf for 1 month. So if it's 100% for a year, what does that chop down to 1 month of yield for Farm? And they issue you a future token that says, here's your paycheck advance on your farm yield 1 month ahead of time, which now I can go and degen into something else, right? Because I have that paycheck advance ahead of time for the yield that I'm waiting a month for, right? So that's one really cool AP Wine Finance. Another one is like Babylon Finance. Basically, it's like kind of like the commune.
Oh yeah, they're pretty new.
Yeah, group mind kind of thing where like people can formulate strategies and then those can get voted in. Harvest is like a partner platform there because again, we have 85 different strategies. So why wouldn't you want to build strategies with like your group mind? Babylon Finance, again, connecting with Harvest Finance. We also have like 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 was another investment. So perpetual derivatives or leverage.
Dude, they're blowing up.
Yeah, like 𝗵𝗶𝗴 is another great.
They got
one.
like $1 billion in volume, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, and that was one of our very first ones. So they're doing really great in their own respect as well. I think we did like a 10x or whatever, even on that investment. So, so it's not even about that, but it's just,
was it at like $1? It's at $6 now. I'm a bag holder. I haven't sold any.
Nice.
There we go. Let's go, baby.
There you go. See, so, but again, it's not about the money. It's just like, hey, this is a really good idea. These are really good projects. How can we kind of connect? And then going beyond just that dollar investment is now what can Harvest do with you? So like with AP Wine Finance, they listed iFarm token. So now users can leverage iFarm, right? Babylon Finance is their users are going to hopefully start leveraging the Harvest Finance platform for their strategy. So, that's a big part of why we hook up with these different projects, right? Because there's the synergy between us both creates more than if we were just sitting there siloed by ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean that's a core philosophy of DeFi. Is a composability between protocols, but now we're starting to see it between chains as well, and it's really starting to grow. And it gets down to that, right? The sum of everyone is greater than the whole of the parts. Or maybe I said that backwards, right? The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah. But at the end of the day, right, that's what it means to be a commune where, you can make a little bit of an investment into some other protocol, and it ultimately ends up helping your own project more so than maybe that 50 grand would have helped if you just reinvested it back into Harvest.
Exactly.
So that's super cool in terms of what Harvest is working on and kind of how you guys are branching out into the rest of the ecosystem. What do you see as kind of just like the next steps, maybe for Harvest or maybe it's for DeFi as a whole? And we've talked a lot about on some previous podcasts about gas fees and what that means for kind of the future of the ecosystem. Maybe you could just kind of give us what your next like 6 months to a year looks like in DeFi and what you're really, excited for in the near future.
Like for Harvest, like specifically, it's just continuing to look at like those other opportunities, right? Like now Aave is on Matic and they're doing some like yield farm stuff over there. So is that like the next layer 2 opportunity, right? So now Harvest, farming across 3 different chains, and just continuing to expand that. Looking at new farm type opportunities, like we offer NFT farming, right? So, what can we go beyond that?
You guys have what is the punk farm?
Yeah, you can farm with punks. You can farm with mooncats. There's like 4 or 5 different ones on there. So, yeah. So like before, that's another. One of the themes of Harvest is like, why just hold Ethereum or Bitcoin or these NFTs in your wallet and they just sit there and kind of do nothing other than like kind of ride the wave of market speculation? Why not put them to work, right? Why not go out and farm if you have the opportunity to do something with that, right? So, again, just trying to offer these additional opportunities to users that didn't exist, and just talking about like, things like 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 or, another project that I'm looking at is 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. We're farming derivatives, right? So like 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 is pretty cool where they're fully collateralized derivatives, like 5x derivatives. It's like one of the scariest things if like you do margin trading. So like especially this market, right? Like, yes, ETH looks so strong, 5x long ETH, I'm going to bed. Boom, you wake up. Not only is your position rocked, you got a margin call coming in that's eating up, little Johnny's college fund, right? Like that's what's always
kept me. Yesterday, it sounds like you were listening to Andy and I's conversation over the last 24 hours.
Well, I'm going to show you the project that you should be in then, so basically 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 is an AMM, right? So you take, just real quick, if you had, let's say $10,000, you deposit it into the pool at 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵, 10,000 USDC. It creates 5,000 short, 5,000 long tokens. And so now you're in balance, right? And so if the longs start going up, it starts eating away at the value of the short. And if it goes vice versa, so it's basically just like teetering back and forth, fully collateralized. So if you put in your $1,000 bet on ETH long and it did dump overnight and kind of screw you, the good thing is one, you don't lose anything more than that $1,000 because you're fully collateralized. And 2, I think one of the most important things is no forced liquidation, right? So think of the Patriots when they're down 28-3. I hate the Patriots, but I know you love Tom Brady, but they're down 28-3 to the Falcons. They're down 28-3 to the Falcons going into the end of the third quarter. Imagine if they ended the game there because they're like, oh, you're down too far. You're losing too much, right? That's like what a forced liquidation is.
That's basically what a liquidation is, right? When you fall in the margin.
But
right?
at 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵, because every position is fully collateralized, there's no risk for like the centralized exchange to say, oh, this guy's losing too much money. We need to liquidate him. Otherwise he may not pay us or he may not have enough to pay us. So there's no forced liquidation at 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. So you're in the race till the end of the month. So ETH shorts are getting smoked all this month. And then now back-to-back like weekends, we'll just say, back-to-back weeks, you've had huge dives in the market where these $0 tokens from ETH, because they were getting so rocked, they were down to 0, but never got liquidated, have now charged back up to be worth like 40, 60 cents of their value, almost back level to what ETH longs were doing through this whole month, right? So it's almost like this analogy, tortoise the hare, ETH is ripping it up, that's what you should put your money on. But that short is just slowly doing its work, and as we get to the finish line, because they settle at the end of the month, right? So it's not like it's a forced liquidation, but the market has to settle, so eventually you can cash out at your true value of the token. The tortoise is almost caught up to the hare after this blazing speed that ETH has been doing all month. So it's like super interesting that you can do this degen 5x YOLO still in derivatives, but not wake up in the morning completely wiped out and have a margin call hanging over your head. Liquidity mining is starting.
Yeah, sounds like heaven.
So liquidity mining starts next month.
Should we get rich now or should we wait until tomorrow?
Hey, get your funds ready. Liquidity mining starts on the
what's
1st.
the website for the LM program?
It's 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵, 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵.fi. So it's 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. And just add app at the front of that, app.𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵.fi, and just check it out. Right now it's kind of like the beta testing period. You can earn some of the 𝗬𝗵𝗶 token right now, but true liquidity mining starts like on the 1st or 2nd when the market opens up. And what's cool is you can put money in as an LP, you'll earn trading fees, or you can earn the governance token too by buying the derivatives. But if you don't want to be risky and say, oh, I don't want to lose money, betting 5x long, just to try to earn this governance token, just buy equal parts of the short. And now you're balanced out, have no risk, and you're farming the 𝗬𝗶 token. So
you're just basically staking.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. But because there's different reward pools for the LPs versus the derivative stakers, so you can farm both pools with very low risk side.
Wow, sounds like a Ponzi scam.
No, because again, everything.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You're killing me with these mafia terms, man.
No, those I should not have said that. Those terms should be completely banned and eradicated from crypto, unless it's actually something that's a Ponzi scam. Because the Ponzi-nomics meme, like I love it, but like it just gives crypto such and DeFi like a view and connotation. But yeah,
it really does. Because I mean, some are pure Ponzi's, but like some have economics is complicated, right? Like. The fiat is more of a scam than anything because they just kind of printing press and and supposedly there's all these economics behind it, but I think somebody's just going brr, right? But like to truly build this complicated DeFi system, there's a lot of like underlying parts. So in some respects, this thing Ethereum, there's no cap on its issuance. It must be a Ponzi. That's like kind of what the BTC argument is, but that's not how it works, right? Like there's economic principles built into all of this stuff. So again, I don't like the word Ponzi unless you're kind of looking at these like fly-by-night projects that just did some kind of fork and slapped a token on there just so they can pump and exit scam.
There's projects out there, but we kind of like that first entrance into crypto, like a lot of whatever you want to call them, no coiners, normies, whatever you want to call them, like that is one of the first hesitations. Is like, how can there possibly be a coin or an asset that pays me 4,000% APY? There just has to be something wrong with that. And then you start trying to poke holes. And like you said, economics is complicated, but if you eventually say to yourself, like, I don't want to learn anymore, or I don't want to understand the complexities, you just kind of throw your hands up and it's like, yeah, it has to be a Ponzi because it just sounds too good to be true.
I think what people need to be more careful of is like the Pied Piper, like Elon Musk or Mark Cuban, and they just throw out a coin name like Dogecoin, and then Dogecoin rushes up to 40 cents when it doesn't have like a financial economic reason that it should be 40 cents, right? Like,
oh no, Dogecoin is simply a meme. Like there's things.
Yeah, but people are just rolling on Elon Musk is talking about it, and that's where the danger is, right? So like, but then people equate that to crypto. Oh, I bought Dogecoin and I lost money. And it's not crypto's fault, it's because you listen to Elon Musk, right? But if you actually looked into crypto, and this is what I explain people when I try to talk to them crypto face-to-face, I'm like, get past all that and look at the underlying technology, blockchain. Look what it could do for casinos and like fair play or voting, or just even in a currency, the fact that you can track all the money back and forth, even though there's pseudo-anonymity, right? Like, if you could do that with the American dollar in a sense, you couldn't printing press it, or politicians couldn't be hoarding money as easily, right? Because you have this huge public ledger. So there are viable benefits to it. They're just maybe shady people using it, right? So I think those things get too intermixed, especially when you have a celebrity like Elon Musk, hyping stuff that they shouldn't be hyping, I guess.
I was having this conversation with someone the other day where I got a bunch of texts like, oh, should I buy Dogecoin? And, it's always a complicated answer like, well, I don't really know. Like maybe you want it just for the entertainment value, or maybe you're really just trying to
a lotto ticket. It's a lotto ticket.
Right. So, but it's interesting to see like there is essentially no utility with Dogecoin. That is, basically there's no disagreement there. But then I mentioned to the same person, it's like, yeah, there's no utility in Dogecoin. It's just a meme. But essentially that's what Bitcoin is. Like, what's the utility of Bitcoin other than its meme value? It's literally just, it goes up because people agree that it's worth something. And for the same reasoning, that's pretty much the value proposition of gold as well. So, it's tough to think that, like, Dogecoin is worth something only because there's like, people that agree that maybe it should be worth something. But I think we can apply that same narrative to a lot of different coins in the ecosystem, where we can separate Ethereum and DeFi into almost a completely different sector because there is utility value. And there's things that you can do with your tokens. You can put them to work, collateralize them, and then ultimately you have this DeFi flywheel that starts to spin. People might still call that like, a scam or a meme or a Ponzi, whatever you want to call it, like kind of these negative connotation words or narratives, but at the end of the day, it does provide some utility value compared to some of these other assets that are simply just a store of value and really no utility. So
I think that's kind of actually why I struggled with Bitcoin a little bit, because I'm like, when I first heard about it years before I actually got into crypto, because again, like the lack of utility, like, well, you can't spend this at a store, so how is this valuable? So it's just like a digital baseball card almost, where like almost only this small segment of people are really going to care about the value of this. But again, like when then
Bitcoin, the first NFT.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's kind of where I see Ethereum, as you said, like there's so much more you can do with Ethereum, and you don't even need like the whole token ecosystem necessarily, but like just going back to the casino analogy, if a bunch of people could come together and pool their money together in like this smart contract, trustless, and we could all pool our money together and we act as the bank casino, and then the token that everybody holds is just collecting the cut, let's say the 1% on every bet instead of like the 10% Vegas charges, you've now reduced, tenfold the cost to the customer, and now you've created an automated, digitally distributed dividend to everybody that's holding money there, again, and it's global. So now you've made a commune casino, right? Like that to me, forget Bitcoin, right? Like maybe Bitcoin is a currency that you use there just for the trading value purposes because it's blockchain, but the value is the casino and what people are doing there and placing their bets, and then the fees that you're aggregating out of it, right? Like that's what's exciting to me, not the store of value potential.
Yeah, and that's where the innovation is really happening, and kind of the growth of the ecosystem and the growth of the financial ecosystem as a whole. Red, we talked about a ton of stuff here. Your own personal involvement, getting into Harvest and some of the recovery that we've seen, and kind of how you guys have grown over time, as well as governance and just kind of the ecosystem as a whole. This has been great, man. Do you have any parting thoughts or anything you want to tell our audience before we hop off?
No, I would just say, please, if you're interested in kind of like dipping your toe into cryptocurrencies, or if you've kind of heard of yield farming, or hey, I want to make 20% on my dollar, I would definitely check out like Harvest.finance, just because we try to make it very user friendly. Like I said, bring some digital dollars you get from Coinbase, check out our website, you can deposit. I would just say, kind of do your own research, understand what you're getting into. Don't listen to just Red or Elon Musk, kind of like, okay, what is Dogecoin? Let me go look for it myself. And then you find out it's probably not as nice as Elon Musk said. If you come to Harvest Finance and kind of look and do your own research, you're going to see like, whoa, I can really do make my 20 cents or 20% on my dollar, right? So that's what I would encourage, or just give parting thoughts to users. And then just be very careful in general in decentralized finance. There are a lot of scams out there. That's why Harvest exists, to kind of try to filter out some of those scams and yield farming. But there are some kind of snake oil salesmen, again, going back to that Wild West analogy. So while there is a lot of money to be made, there's also a lot of potential pitfalls that all users should be careful of.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, this has been great. Super, we appreciate you coming on. And, look forward to a lot more updates and progress from Harvest.
Appreciate it, guys. Really
And
appreciate it.
we will check out some of those newer projects that are coming out. We're going to look into those for sure.
𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 and AP Wine Finance. Those are two really cool ones. Really excited.
Yeah, and Babylon. Hopefully we can help them out.
Yeah,
man. Appreciate it, buddy. We will talk soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to the DeFi by Design podcast. Until next time, DeFi Slate Team.